picture a hallway, right? Like somewhere in the Mapo district of Seoul.
Okay, yeah. I can picture it.
And it's quiet. I mean, unnervingly quiet. You're standing right outside a recording studio, but this isn't, just some casual rehearsal space.
Right, it's the real deal.
Exactly. You're looking at this massive, heavy, entirely soundproof door, like the kind of industrial seal that's basically designed to completely block out the external world.
Oh, yeah. Those doors are intimidating. Like bank vault levels of heavy.
Totally. And yet, even though it's engineered to contain everything happening inside, if you stand close enough to the frame, you can hear music quite literally leaking out into the corridor.
Just that faint bass thumping through the acoustic treatment.
Yeah, exactly. And the atmosphere in this hallway is just tense, It's reverent and heavy with expectation, because you're basically standing on the threshold of a hitmaker's sanctuary.
It really is a sanctuary.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the sheer intimidation of that heavy door really sets the stage for everything we're going to unpack today. Because behind that acoustic seal, I mean, entire careers are being forged. It's this highly pressurized space where raw, unprotected human vulnerability is just colliding head-on with the immense high-stakes demands of the commercial pop industry.
It's a pressure cooker. Which brings us to why we're here. Welcome to Future_Music Deep Dive.
Glad to be here.
Today, we are tearing down the walls of that exact Mapo studio. We've gathered an incredible stack of sources for this deep dive.
All the sources are amazing.
Right. We've got behind-the-scenes studio footage, we've got in-depth producer interviews, and, most crucially, the raw audio stems and isolated vocal tracks from these very sessions.
Which is so rare to get our hands on.
It really is. And our mission today is to understand the intricate mechanics of creating a chart-topping track. So the premise of the show we were looking at, Famous Singers Need Hit Songs, is just fascinating.
It's such a unique concept for a television show.
Right. We are following the top 6 singers from the television competition Sing Again 4, and they're fiercely competing for a custom hit song.
A song produced by some of the most legendary, culturally defining producers in the Korean music industry, no less.
Exactly. And you have to remember, these are artists who have already proven their technical capabilities. Like, they survived a massive, highly stressful television competition.
Yeah, they've been through the ringer already.
They really have. And now they are fighting for the absolute holy grail of the music business, which is a signature track.
Right. That one defining song.
Exactly. Crafted by a master that basically transitions them from being a contestant to a fully realized solo artist with a permanent identity.
It's about securing their prosperity in the industry, really.
Yeah.
And for context, the pairings across this project are just spectacular.
Oh, they're insane.
You have Curie paired with the veteran Yoon Jong-shin, which is a brilliant match. You've got Leo Wook working with a deeply atmospheric Kim Jong-won.
Such a good duo.
And then slowly is collaborating with An Shin.
Yeah.
But our focus today is locked on 3 specific, highly volatile partnerships.
Right. Today we are dissecting episode 12, focusing precisely on a collision of 3 distinct teams. So let's set the scene for you.
Do.
We have Team Kudo. That pairs the sweeping powerhouse vocalist Dorado with the razor-sharp hip-hop production genius Kunst.
Such a cool contrast there.
Then we have Team Jamdo Garden, which is pairing the highly expressive vocalist Kim Jae-min with the indie pop maestro the Garden.
Another fascinating dynamic.
Right. And these 2 teams have decided to playfully invade this Mapo studio. And inside that studio, behind that heavy door we talked about, is Team Seodo.
The iconic Team Seodo.
Yes. The minimalist producer Zion.T, deeply engrossed in a session with his meticulously detailed vocalist, Seodo.
It's just a brilliant collision of creative worlds. I mean, by analyzing the raw footage of this studio invasion, we get this highly concentrated, unvarnished dose of the psychological warfare.
Oh, total.
The creative envy, the intense collaborative magic that actually goes into music production. Like, we get to look past the polished PR narrative.
Right, the stuff they usually show us.
Exactly. We see how these artists actually interact when the microphones are hot and the stakes are at their absolute highest.
And we really have to acknowledge the retrospective lens of this conversation today. Like, the songs born from this specific Mapo studio session, they're already out in the world.
Oh yeah, everyone knows them by now.
You've probably streamed them, and the public has already decided which ones they love. But we aren't here to, like, review the final product.
No, not at all.
We are reverse engineering the hits. We're looking backward using our source material to understand the alchemy of how those tracks were formulated.
We want to decode the architecture.
Exactly. The calculated architectural decisions, the team dynamics, and those deep-seated production philosophies that shape the audio you hear in your headphones today.
So let's push open that heavy soundproof door and actually step inside Zion.T's domain.
Let's do it.
Because the moment the invading teams cross that threshold, we are confronted with how the physical environment itself dictates the musical output.
Yeah, the vibe shifts immediately.
It really does. So Ka더가든, GWYN, Kunst, and Dorado are standing in the hallway. And before they even sit down, Ka더가든 makes this incredibly striking observation.
Oh, I love this part.
He jokes that they should just throw the artists into the studio, lock the heavy door, and leave them in there like they are in a fermentation fridge.
A fermentation fridge.
Right. So the musicians will just, ripen and come out on their own.
That metaphor is absolute gold for understanding hit song strategy. I mean, think about the acoustic reality of a high-end recording studio.
It's intense.
It is quite literally designed for sensory deprivation. You are entirely isolated from the noise of the outside world. There's no natural light, no concept of the time of day.
You lose your mind in there a little bit.
You do. And there's no feedback from the general public. To craft a truly unique sonic identity in an industry that is just completely saturated with noise and fleeting TikTok trends, you actually need that isolation.
You have to disconnect to connect.
Exactly. You put Zion.T and Seodo in that soundproof box, you seal the door, and you force them to strip away all external influences. You let their authentic sound ferment.
Until all that remains is their pure, unadulterated musical chemistry.
Right. And that sensory deprivation creates an immediate, profound psychological shift.
It does. And Ka더가든 notes this explicitly. He looks at Kunst and Zion.T sitting at the mixing console, and he says they look completely different from when they were casually chatting outside.
Yeah, he says they look frozen.
Frozen, exactly. They are entirely locked in, adopting this intense, hyper-focused posture of craftsmen.
It's serious business.
Very. And for an artist like Seodo or GWYN, stepping into that space is overwhelming. The air is just thick with expectation. The fermentation fridge is not a comfortable place.
No, it's a crucible. It's designed to extract something profound. But, let's challenge this idea of leaving a song in the fridge to slowly ripen.
Okay, let's hear it.
If we look at the broader landscape of pop music history, overthinking a track in an isolated room can completely kill its momentum.
Oh, paralysis by analysis.
Exactly. If you sit in the studio, tweaking every micro detail, waiting for some magical ripening process, you often engineer the soul right out of the music.
You lose the spark.
Think of it like a pressure cooker versus a slow cooker. The slow cooker is this fermentation fridge. It's methodical. It takes days. It's Zion. Painstakingly crafting a highly specific vibe.
Right.
But modern hit making often relies on the pressure cooker. You lock the artist in a room, you turn up the heat, the pressure spikes instantly, and boom, you have a finished product that retains all its original volatile energy.
It's a rush.
Doesn't the pressure cooker method actually produce more immediate, impactful music? I mean, shouldn't we be prioritizing that raw energy?
Well, the pressure cooker undoubtedly produces explosive immediate reactions.
Yeah.
I mean, we see that all the time with viral hits that dominate the algorithm for 2 weeks and then just vanish.
Yeah.
But consider the specific goal of these artists. The goal here isn't a disposable viral trend. The goal is long-term artistic prosperity for singers who have fought incredibly hard for a second chance at a career.
That's a really fair point.
The slow cooker, the fermentation method, is what builds a sustainable foundation. That time spent isolated in the fridge allows a producer like Zion.T to deeply study the subtleties of Seodo's voice.
He gets to know the instrument, basically.
Exactly. He learns his emotional triggers, the unique phrasing, the subtle breaks in his tone. A pressure cooker gives you a catchy hook, but the fermentation process gives you a career-defining anthem.
It increases our understanding of who the artist truly is.
Exactly. It reduces the suffering of trial and error in the public eye by figuring it out deeply in private.
That distinction between a viral moment and a sustainable identity is crucial. But the tension of that fridge environment, that heavy, isolated atmosphere, it naturally leads to some highly revealing interpersonal dynamics.
So the second the outside world intrudes, everything shifts.
When Team Ka더가든 and Team Seodo invade Team Zido's space, the tension in the room instantly pivots. we witness this incredible display of artistic jealousy and spontaneous team bonding.
It's so real. They immediately begin evaluating their competition. It is an absolute masterclass in reading room dynamics.
Oh, for sure.
The moment they all sit down around the conference table, the grass is greener syndrome just takes over completely.
It's so palpable.
Seodo looks across the table at Kunst and Kadergarden, and he observes that their teams seem incredibly well structured. Like they are laughing, they have an easy rapport.
They look like they're having fun.
Right. And Seodo drops this fantastic, culturally specific joke. He says, honestly, the rice cake here looks much bigger.
The bigger rice cake.
Which means, your situation looks far better and easier than mine.
Which is a massive moment of creative vulnerability. I mean, we have to decode what Seodo is really feeling here.
He's feeling the pressure.
How does a highly detailed, meticulous artist handle the sudden realization that rival teams seem to be having more fun? Seodo is in the trenches with Zion.T doing this grueling, microscopic vocal work.
It's exhausting work.
And suddenly he sees Dorado and Kunst joking around effortlessly. It sparks this immediate instinctual insecurity about his own creative process.
Exactly. And you can see how everyone in that room deploys different psychological mechanisms to manage that sudden spike in competitive pressure.
Yes.
And the most fascinating defense mechanism belongs entirely to Kadergarden.
Oh my gosh, yes, let's talk about him.
If you watch the footage of this interaction, he is constantly using humor to deflect the tension. Out of nowhere, he starts talking about his diet.
While eating cake.
While actively trying to eat a piece of pumpkin cake in front of everyone.
Hmm?
He insists he is on the last leg of a strict diet. He starts complaining about getting a blood sugar spike.
It's so absurd.
He even holds up his wrist to show Zion.T how skinny his bones are.
It's hilarious, but it's completely transparent. He is sitting in a room with Zion.T and Kunst absolute titans of the industry.
He's feeling the heat.
The Garden is using self-deprecation and physical comedy as a shield. He is actively trying to lower the temperature in the room to protect his artist, Kim Jae-min, from the crushing weight of the competition.
He's creating a safe harbor for Kim Jae-min.
Mm-hmm.
And that team synergy, whether it's built on intense silent focus like Zion.T and Seodo, or deflected through the Garden's cake-eating jokes, is a massive component of how a hit song is actually engineered.
Let's look at why these specific synergies work. Take Kunst.
Okay.
His production style in the hip-hop sphere relies on tight, rhythmically complex, but incredibly sparse beats.
Very mathematical.
When you pair that rigid mathematical foundation with a vocalist like Dorado, who possesses massive sweeping power and immense range, you create a perfect architectural contrast.
The beat provides the unyielding structure.
Exactly, and her voice acts as the dynamic, soaring melody that breaks out of it.
Whereas Zion.T and Seodo are the exact opposite. Their synergy isn't built on contrast, it's built on amplification.
They double down on each other's traits.
Right. Zion.T is famously atmospheric, obsessing over the microtextures of a synth pad or a snare hit.
Yeah.
And Seodo is universally known among his peers as the king of details regarding vocal delivery.
So they match perfectly.
They mesh perfectly because they speak the exact same language of microscopic, obsessive perfection.
But this brings up a really important debate about the recording process itself.
Oh, what's that?
Does everyone getting along, having great rapport, and complimenting each other's skinny wrists actually translate to a compelling piece of music?
That's the big question.
Right. If you look at the history of legendary albums, so many of them were born out of absolute friction, disagreement, tension, two artists pushing violently against each other's creative boundaries.
Fleetwood Mac style.
Exactly. Does the bigger rice cake of friendly rapport actually yield a weaker, safer song?
It's a valid argument.
I would argue that while friction between a band and a producer can produce flashes of brilliance, the kind of chemistry we are seeing in the Mapo studio is about establishing a necessary baseline of psychological safety.
Right, especially given their backgrounds.
Exactly. For artists like Seodo and Kim Jae-min, who have just survived the immense rejection and stress of an audition show, a supportive environment is mandatory if you want them to take creative risks.
You can't be creative if you're terrified.
Right. The friction shouldn't be interpersonal. The friction should exist strictly between the artist and the music itself. They need the producer to be that safe harbor so they can go to dangerous, vulnerable places vocally.
I couldn't agree more. And that volatility, the need to test their art against the real world, leads us perfectly into the next major phase of this process.
The real world test.
Yes, because these artists can't stay in the isolated, safe environment of the Mapo studio forever. They eventually have to test their market viability in public to see if this carefully constructed chemistry actually translates to a live audience.
They have to leave the fridge.
They have to leave the fridge. Which brings us to the busking event in Mangwon, which completely dredges up the lingering psychological effects of their origins on the Sing Again program.
The Mangwon busking event is the ultimate reality check. I mean, stepping out of a perfectly tuned acoustic environment and onto a noisy street corner completely changes all the variables.
The acoustics are a nightmare on the street.
Oh, terrible. And the challenge here was highly strategic. The singers had to perform the established hit songs of the producers they were matched with.
So no hiding behind obscure indie tracks.
None. This wasn't just a karaoke exercise. This was a strategic test of interpreting a master's work. And the result? Seodo takes first place in the live audience vote.
He really dominated that. But look at why Seodo won that crowd vote, and look at the specific song choices, because it reveals a profound truth about audience psychology.
Let's break down the choices.
Kim Jin-in chose to sing For My Life, which is a beautifully introspective, nuanced track, but as Kunst accurately pointed out, it's a song the general public might not recognize instantly.
It takes a minute to get into.
Right. Dorado, conversely, chose Jasmine, which is a massive, undeniable hit.
Huge track.
Yet, during the studio playback conversation, Dorado expresses this intense moment of regret. She laments that she should have performed something like Good Day.
Or pulled out a massive vibrating vocal run on a track like woo.
Exactly, as Cars the Garden playfully suggested.
She points out that at the very end of her performance, she essentially panicked. She relied on a massive sweeping ad-lib line. She tells the room, I swept it again.
I swept it again, yeah.
Referring to her tendency to rely on vocal gymnastics when she feels she is losing the crowd. And this opens up a fundamental debate about hit song strategy.
It really does.
When you are standing on a street in Mangwon, or when you are trying to dominate a streaming platform, do massive vocal gymnastics, those soaring, complex ad-lib lines actually sell a song?
Or are they just a crutch?
Right. Are they just cheap crowd-pleasing tricks that don't translate to long-term replay value?
It is a vital distinction in music production. A sweeping, high-register ad-lib will absolutely secure a live street vote.
It's undeniably impressive in person.
It commands immediate, involuntary physical attention from a crowd. It is pure spectacle. But a hit song, a track you actively choose to listen to on repeat in your headphones, relies on structural integrity and narrative resonance, not spectacle.
The novelty wears off on headphones.
Completely. Dorado's reliance on the ad-lib highlights her undeniable technical talent, but her regret over not choosing a structurally perfect pop anthem like Good Day proves she understands the massive difference.
The difference between a moment and a hit.
Yes, she knows the difference between winning a momentary live vote and actually owning a lasting hit.
And that intense self-awareness, that anxiety over how they are perceived and categorized by an audience, is deeply rooted in the trauma of where these artists came from.
It goes so deep.
This brings us to a really profound contrast discussed around the conference table. Kunst and Zion reflect on their time acting as judges on the hip-hop survival show Show Me the Money during its 9th season.
Such a different vibe on that show.
Completely. And they directly contrast that aggressive environment with the atmosphere of Sing Again.
The emotional profile of the entire deep dive really crystallizes in this moment. Kunst explains that the mindset of participants on a rap survival show is entirely offensive.
You're out for blood?
They come in aggressive, ready to conquer, ready to tear down their competitors. But the singers on Sing Again.
It's so different.
Kunst notes that they enter the stage with these incredibly innocent eyes. They're practically vibrating with this desperate, quiet hope.
Holding onto the microphone like it's a life raft.
He actually admits that looking at their histories and hearing the raw desperation in how they sing makes it completely impossible for the producers to be harsh.
They can't be critical in the way they normally might be in the industry. And the Garden takes that observation and distills it into an incredibly poignant, almost angry complaint.
He really goes in on the format.
He states, point blank, that Sing Again is fundamentally a flawed program. Why? Because they treat the singers like criminals by stripping them of their actual names and forcing them to be called only by numbers.
It's dehumanizing.
He points directly across the table at Kim Jae-min and asks what his number was. Kim Jae-min quietly replies, I was number 37.
And Zion.T's reaction to that is telling. He just looks down and whispers, that's cruel.
It is cruel.
Being reduced to a number is a profound psychological burden. It systematically strips away your history, your artistic lineage, your dignity, and reduces you to a mere data point in a television machine.
Just another number for the ratings.
For an artist like Kim Jae-min to have to walk onto a stage and introduce himself as number 37 before he is even allowed to prove his musical worth, it creates a lingering psychological scar.
Oh, absolutely.
It builds a deep-seated, almost desperate need for validation.
But, if we step back and look at the broader architecture of the music industry, we can see how that painful process serves a higher purpose.
A necessary evil.
In a way, yeah. The journey from being a nameless, disposable number on a soundstage to sitting in a Mappo studio as a named artist, collaborating as an equal with Zion.T or Kadergarden, is a journey of reclaiming identity.
A huge arc.
The initial anonymity of the number system forces the audience and the judges to strip away all visual bias and focus solely on the raw frequency of the voice.
You can't rely on past clout.
Exactly. And once they prove that their voice has inherent value, earning their name back is a massive triumph. This process, as harsh as it seems, ultimately serves to reduce the suffering of obscurity.
It does.
It increases their understanding of their own inherent worth and paves the way for lasting prosperity in their careers.
That's a great way to frame it. The crucible of being number 37 is exactly what gives Kim Jae-min the emotional depth to interpret a lyric with such staggering authenticity now.
It fuels the art.
And the producers are acutely aware of this responsibility. Kunst says something fascinating in the footage. Usually once you form a bond, there's nothing scary than that.
That line gave me chills.
He means that once he connects with the pain and the story of a numbered singer, he is fully, terrifyingly committed.
He's all in.
The producers aren't just making a catchy pop song anymore. They have taken on the monumental responsibility of giving these artists their musical identity back.
And that immense sense of responsibility Kunst feels to protect these artists. You can hear it directly in how he runs his recording sessions.
It translates directly to the technical approach.
Understanding the weight of what these singers have been through explains exactly why the producers take their jobs so seriously, which leads us straight into the highly contrasting recording philosophies revealed during this studio invasion.
The contrast in their technical methods is staggering. It provides a masterclass in how different audio engineering minds approach the architecture of a vocal take.
Let's analyze the king of details approach versus the three-chance rule. In the studio, they discuss Seodo's recording session with Zion.T.
The microscopic session.
As we mentioned, Seodo is universally recognized as the king of details. He analyzes the microscopic elements of a performance.
The tiny stuff nobody else hears.
The intake of breath before a consonant, the slight pitch variation on a vowel, the exact milliseconds of vibrato tail at the end of a phrase. Kunst jokes that Zion.T and Seodo probably did 6,200 takes to get it right.
And while 6,200 is obviously an exaggeration, it accurately highlights their philosophy. Perfection through microscopic, relentless iteration.
Relentless is the word.
They will sit at the console, utilizing a process called vocal comping. For those unfamiliar, comping is where a producer painstakingly records dozens of takes of a single vocal line.
Sometimes hundreds of takes.
Right. And then they digitally stitch together the absolute best syllables from each take to create an artificial, mathematically flawless master performance. Zion.T and Seodo will chip away at a vocal line until it is a flawless, undeniable diamond.
But then look at Kunst's philosophy. He looks across the table at his team and declares his golden rule. I'll give you 3 chances, okay? You have to finish it in 3 tries.
3 chances.
From a pure hit-making perspective, this is a massive gamble. Does micromanaging every single syllable through intense comping yield a more enduring hit? Or does capturing lightning in a bottle within 3 takes preserve a raw magic that audiences unconsciously connect with more deeply?
It is the ultimate battle of precision versus emotion in audio engineering. If you do 6,200 takes and comp them flawlessly, you will undoubtedly achieve technical perfection.
It will sound pristine.
Every frequency will sit perfectly in the mix, no harsh transients, perfect pitch. But the immense risk is that the performance becomes completely sterile.
It sounds robotic.
The singer stops feeling the emotion of the lyric and starts obsessing over the physical mechanics of their throat.
Exactly. The humanity is edited out.
Right. On the other hand, Kunst's 3-chance rule introduces massive stakes. It forces a vocalist like Dorado to tap into her deepest, most raw instincts immediately.
It's do or die.
It creates a studio environment of urgency. The slight imperfections in a first or second take, a slight voice crack, a rush breath, often convey far more humanity and vulnerability than a perfectly comped track.
It feels like a real person is singing to you.
For artists who have survived the grueling gauntlet of an audition show, tapping into that raw, urgent emotion rather than overthinking it is often the most effective strategy to connect with a listener.
I completely agree. Perfection can act as a sterile barrier between the artist and the listener. The slight crack in a voice on a heavy lyric, that is what makes the hair on your arms stand up.
That's the stuff that moves you.
But this discussion of how to capture the vocal leads us to an even more crucial insight about what happens underneath the vocal. This is perhaps the most vital audio engineering insight of the entire deep dive.
Oh, this is the core of it all.
During the conversation, Kathagaden makes a profound observation about Zion.T's legendary discography. He points out that if you listen to Zion.T's most famous, enduring songs, the accompaniment, the actual instrumental track, is incredibly, almost shockingly simple.
And Kunst's immediate response to that observation is the thesis statement for legendary production.
What does he say?
He nods vigorously and says, "But that's harder. Emptying is harder. Filling is easiest."
Emptying is harder. So if we look at the bigger picture of what these singers carry with them, this concept of emptying makes perfect sense.
It ties everything together.
Think about the trauma of being a number, the profound stories they carry. If you take an artist with that much emotional weight and you clutter their track with a massive horn section, 6 layers of synthesizers, and complex, distracting drum fills, what physically happens to the audio?
You completely bury the story. In audio engineering terms, you create massive frequency masking.
Break that down for us.
If you have a synth pad occupying the 1 kilohertz to 4 kilohertz range, which is exactly where the human ears evolved to hear the emotional nuances of the human voice, the synth and the voice are fighting for the exact same sonic real estate.
They're clashing.
By filling the track, you mask the subtleties of the singer's pain, their breath, their triumph. You lose the emotional resonance entirely.
Yes. And that is why emptying a track requires immense courage and confidence from the producer. It means sitting at a mixing desk, looking at a massive session file full of cool ideas, and actively hitting the mute button.
Deleting hours of work sometimes.
It means having the audacity to let the vocals stand completely naked in the mix. When a track is minimal, there are no sonic tricks to hide behind.
The vocal has to carry everything.
The architecture of the song relies entirely on the narrative carrying the weight. Kunst understands that any amateur producer can pile loops and samples on top of each other until a beat sounds big.
Anyone can do that now.
But stripping a song down to a single, beautifully recorded piano chord, a sparse, dry drum beat, and a highly vulnerable vocal that requires absolute mastery.
It is a profound act of musical respect.
Yeah.
By emptying the track, stripping away the masking frequencies, the producer is essentially saying to the singer, your voice, your history, your triumph is enough.
We don't need tricks.
We don't need studio tricks to force people to listen to you. It honors the artist's journey and increases the audience's understanding of the emotion because the message is completely unobscured.
But having an intense theoretical discussion about production styles and the courage of minimalism is one thing. Actual execution is another.
The theory is easy, the practice is hard.
This brings us to the climax of the studio invasion. The theoretical philosophies we've been analyzing are immediately put to the test when the teams actually pull out their phones to play their rough demos for one another.
The demo listening session.
The tension in that small room at this moment is palpable. It is one thing to sit around a table and talk about your artistic philosophy. It is an entirely different level of vulnerability to press play on an unfinished track in front of Zion.T and Kunst.
That's terrifying.
Team Jemdo-garden, Kim Jae-min, and Kathagaden are the brave ones who volunteer to go first. They play a snippet of their track.
And the reaction from the room is immediate and deeply validating.
Yeah, they love it.
Kunst nods along Zion. Key says it's genuinely good, and they specifically note how perfectly the song's architecture matches Kim Jae-min's unique vocal identity.
Kathagaden is practically glowing with pride. He states confidently that it feels like a hit song.
But the most fascinating revelation of this playback session happens when Zion.T explains the strategic architecture behind Team Seodo's song.
This blew my mind.
He admits something that is incredibly risky from a commercial standpoint. He tells the room that his song doesn't have the structure fully formed from the beginning.
Which is wild.
Instead, he explains that the entire arrangement relies on slowly building intrigue, making the listener want to stay until the very end to finally understand the full sonic picture.
Okay, I have to aggressively question this strategy from a modern music business perspective. Let's look at the brutal reality of the streaming market today.
It's unforgiving.
We live in an era dictated by 15-second social media attention spans. The TikTok algorithm demands that a song hooks the listener within the first 3 to 5 seconds, or they swipe away permanently.
If you don't grab them immediately, they're gone.
Is it not commercial suicide for Zion.T to intentionally withhold the hook or delay the core structure of the song until the very end? In the modern landscape, if you don't give the audience the dopamine payoff immediately, haven't you already lost them to the next video?
If Zion.T were producing a debut single for a completely unknown artist dropping onto Spotify with zero context, you would be absolutely right.
It would bomb.
The modern algorithmic environment is entirely unforgiving to slow burn tracks. However, Zion.T is a master strategist, and he is playing a different game entirely.
How so?
You have to look at the specific context of Sing Again. Seodo and Kim Jimin are not unknown entities. The audience is already deeply emotionally invested in their stories.
They followed their journey.
The public spent weeks watching them fight for their musical lives on television.
Right, they already know the characters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And their emotional investment acts as the buffer against the algorithm. It buys the artist time. Because the audience already cares about Seodo, they will give him more than 3 seconds.
I'll wait for him.
This existing narrative runway allows Zion.T the freedom to build a slow burn track. He doesn't have to rely on a cheap, fleeting thrill at the top of the song.
He can take his time.
He can build a piece of music that requires patience, knowing the audience trusts the artist enough to wait for the payoff. It's a strategy that fosters a deeper, more profound understanding of the music, rather than just a quick algorithmic hit.
That makes perfect sense. The context of their televised struggle buys them the patience of the audience. They have earned the right to subvert standard pop structures because the emotional narrative is the initial hook.
Exactly.
And speaking of subverting expectations, the demo session also provides one of the funniest, most illuminating moments regarding how these teams actually communicate.
Oh, this is great.
After Zion.T explains his structural subversion, the producers turn to Dorado and ask for her honest opinion on the tracks.
This moment is incredible. Dorado, who is clearly trying to be genuine and helpful, but is perhaps honest to a fault, reviews one of the tracks and describes it simply and bluntly as light.
Light! And she is immediately mercilessly roasted by Kunst for being totally unfiltered. It's such a hilarious, sudden shift in the room's energy.
Kunst bursts out laughing, tells her she's been properly teased, and even Kathagaden jumps in to mock the bluntness of the critique.
They won't let her live it down.
But what that brief interaction reveals is the absolute level of trust that has been established within that room. Dorado feels comfortable enough, sitting among industry giants, to give a completely unvarnished, non-diplomatic critique.
She doesn't feel the need to sugarcoat it.
She doesn't use safe PR speak, she just says it feels light. And Kunst, rather than being offended that his artist spoke out of turn, finds her honesty endearing.
That is the true mark of the chemistry we were talking about earlier. They have moved past the polite, frozen intimidation of the fermentation fridge.
That they thought out.
They have pushed through the jealousy of the bigger rice cakes and have reached a point of genuine collaborative safety. It shows that the initial tension served its purpose. It sharpened their focus, and now they can evaluate the audio with clear ears and honest feedback.
It's a beautiful resolution to the profound anxiety they all felt walking into the hallway.
It really is. And it brings us to a synthesis of this massive deep dive. We started by looking at that heavy, soundproof door in Mappo, and what we've discovered by looking at the raw footage and audio stems is that the alchemy of a hit song is staggeringly complex.
It goes so far beyond just finding a catchy melody, programming a good beat, or having a great voice.
Exactly. Engineering a chart topper is about successfully navigating the intimidation of the studio environment. It's about Kathagaden managing the intense, crushing pressure of competition with jokes about blood sugar spikes.
It is about understanding the psychological warfare of feeling like the rival team has better rapport.
It is the highly technical, strategic decision of knowing when to demand 6,200 takes to achieve microscopic perfection versus knowing when to force the magic in just 3 raw tries.
And perhaps most importantly, it is having the sheer audacious courage to empty a track.
To mute the synths.
To clear out the masking frequencies and strip away the noise so the artist's true, authentic voice can finally resonate.
Knowing the complex human dynamics, the insecurities, the laughter, and the strategic audio warfare behind these tracks completely changes how they sound.
It's a totally different listening experience now.
When you put your headphones on and listen to Dorado, Kim Jae-min, or Seodo now, you aren't just passively hearing a pop song, you are actively appreciating the invisible architecture of a hit.
You are hearing the triumphant result of artists reclaiming their identities.
Moving from being mere numbers on a stage to named masters of their craft.
It truly turns passive listening into active, informed appreciation. We promised to reverse engineer the hit today, and I think we found that the core component isn't a specific synthesizer, a vocal comping technique, or a plugin.
No, it's not the gear.
The core component is the human spirit navigating incredible pressure.
So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final, provocative thought to mull over. We constantly think of record producers as these studio wizards who add layers of magic to an artist.
Giving them heavier beats, glossier production, tuning their vocals.
Making them sound larger than life. We view music production as a purely additive process. We think more is better.
Right.
But what if the true mark of a legendary producer? What if the actual genius of someone like Zion.T or Kunst is defined not by what they add, but by what they have the courage to take away?
That's a powerful shift in perspective.
What if the hit song was always inside the artist, buried under years of rejection, self-doubt, and the profound trauma of being reduced to a television number? What if the producer's only real job is to unbury it?
That completely reframes the entire nature of musical collaboration. It makes the producer an archaeologist, gently brushing away the dirt to reveal what was already there, rather than an architect building something from scratch.
Exactly. It's something to think about the next time you hear a beautifully sparse, emotionally heavy track on your playlist.
Thank you for joining us on this incredibly detailed exploration of the Mapo studio sessions.
It's been a great conversation. We hope this conversation has given you a profound new lens through which to view the audio architecture of the music you love. Go re-listen to the released tracks from Team Kodo, Team Jamdo Garden, and Team Zido with fresh ears.
You are going to hear frequencies, emotions, and decisions you never noticed before.
Stay curious, keep listening closely, and we will see you on the next Deep Dive.